welcome to the Winner's Journey podcast, where you hear the secrets behind the stories so that you get inspired and unleash the winner in you. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm your host, Viviana Puello, CEO, founder of Art2 International Magazine, an artist and writer dedicated to inspire people. And this show is dedicated to you because you have a unique message to share, and I want to make sure you take action. So here we interview winners. And when I say winners, I mean people who have conquered their fears, they have conquered their challenges, they have overcome obstacles, and they created amazing, amazing life stories to inspire us. And today, I have the honor, the absolute honor, to interview someone that inspired me since I heard her story for the first time. And I know it's going to touch your heart. She is a keynote speaker and number one international best-selling author, certified intuitive coach, transformational speaker, and a healer, Kathleen Elle. Hi, Kathleen, and welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, well, like I said, you captured my heart since the first time I heard about you. I heard your story. It's so touching, and at the same time, you have done such a creative. You've created this amazing, amazing. How do I say gift with your experience? That is, I think, is very challenging, very difficult to overcome for any mother. And I know you're going to speak more about it. But what you have done for me is to think about whatever it is that we go through and not receive it as victims, but as an experience that happened and that we're going to learn from.
So I was born and raised in a low-income abusive home that included sexual, physical, and emotional abuse. And I remember very early on, it's important that I share this, that I remember very early on as a child thinking, this thought came into my head, there's got to be something more than this to life. And so at that moment, I believe that's really what drove me to become successful in what society thinks is success. You know, as an adult, I was a legislator for 8 years, worked for the governor. I was an appointee and served for the governor for 7 years. And then I became a CEO and lobbyist of a large commercial construction association for 9 years. And prior to that, I was a small business owner with my husband and the husband of my two children, the dad of my two children. And according to society, I was successful, and I really had this, great persona that I could put the mask on. I'm like, I didn't put up with a lot, and I really drove. And what I was driving from was that need to prove to everyone versus really the drive from within my heart. And really what shifted that for me is in 2010, I was sitting in a board meeting, and I was pulled out of that board meeting, and I was told that my son had taken his life. And not only had he taken his life, but he was angry at me, and he wrote a note saying he didn't want me at his service. And so that moment is when my life was shattered. It was, what I knew prior to that split second like that was no longer true to be a part of my life. Like it was like life shifted at that moment. What mattered didn't matter anymore. I knew I needed to figure out a way to survive. And about 3 months or so after Logan's transition, I was laying on his grave, just begging and pleading, whoever took my son to please take me too, because I can't do this anymore. My daughter was a year older than my son, so she was in college in another state, and I was a single mom, so I was living on my own. And it was in that moment that I heard this clear message from above out of nowhere, and nothing was clear at that moment, I might say, like nothing was clear at all. I heard this sound, this voice say, if this happened in your life, then you're meant to do something with it. So now do it. And so at that point, I decided to change the way that I saw my son's suicide, his transition, I knew that I had to find a purpose within this tragedy, within this trauma, for me to continue to walk this earth. And so that's when I started to invest in assisting other people through their challenges. I started to speak out about suicide awareness and how to change the language around suicide. And I still was not okay. I still had to go through this healing journey. Long story short, shorter than it could be, is I chose to invest in my healing, because had I not invested in my healing, then I would still be carrying that weight of shame, self-blame, unworthiness, all of those emotions that I was raised with as a child. And then to have this happen in my life, I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? So today I get to teach people and assist others who are going through their loss of their loved one through a healing journey. So where they can feel love and light and live a fulfilled life and be connected like never before. And what my son gave me was not only a new career. I ended up shifting my career. I left my hometown. I left my family. I moved away and started a new career in healing. What he gave me, though, is the connection to my inner light. Because as I started to heal through the pain and the layers of what I was holding and what I believed in myself, the limiting beliefs and the blocks within my body, I started to see that the light that I was looking for in others was actually shining within me. And the more I uncovered my own light, the more connected I felt to the divine, to God, to Allah, to the infinite intelligence, whatever people want to call the higher power for them. I became a vessel of the messages and healing ability through energy in my hands and in my body. So not only do I get to assist people and as an intuitive coach, but I get to also help them through their healing journey. Yeah.
Oh, I'm touched. I'm always touched by you. What are one of the biggest challenges that you find when you're mentoring people? What are the biggest challenges you find that they're facing when faced with this circumstance?
I think the biggest challenge anybody faces is to actually feel through their uncomfortable feelings. A lot of people avoid, they mask, they pretend, they hide. You know, there's all kinds of ways to not deal with the emotions that feel uncomfortable to them. That is the pain, the emotional pain, the physical pain of loss in general, because loss could also be the loss of your job, the loss of your life, what it was because of a diagnosis of a disease, a parent dying. You know, there's all kinds of losses that we experience in life. And oftentimes we choose to push aside the uncomfortable feelings. And so for me to work with my clients and to teach people about really like hate, anger, fear, any of those emotions, anxiety, depression, they're all emotions that we get to, once we work through them and let them out of our body, let them move through our body, then they can then be replaced by calm and peace and joy and gratitude and just a lighter being. And so a lot of people don't like to face their negative feelings. I'm going to call them negative because they're really not. They're just emotions. You know, there's light and dark in everything that we experience, whether it's the moon or the sun. There's always a darker side to it. It's like the ocean. I use the ocean a lot. Sometimes you can ride the waves and it's smooth and it's fun and it's awesome. And other times the waves come smashing down on you and you feel like you're going to drown. That's the journey of healing. And so it is a journey. You know, our life is a story of, it's a healing journey, not a story of pain. So we all have experiences that are traumatic or difficult. It's how we choose to see those experiences through another lens, through another view.
Right. Can you share with us the difference between your success experience before this and your success now? Because we view success as I'm doing great, my business is doing great, or I have enough clients, or I launched my book. But there's two big differences here before and after. And you were successful, but this is a totally different deal, right?
Right. It's a totally different feeling behind it, you know. So I see everything in my life as teaching moments that I can use and pull from to continue to help me grow. And so the success I had prior to my son's transition was a success of driving to do more. Like whatever, like I was an achiever and I worked, and if I set my mind to it, it was happening. And no matter what occurred, it would be happening. And so every time I achieved another level higher, another level higher, another level higher, it was never enough.
Mm.
Like I had to keep going. And because every time I thought, well, if I get there, then people will see my gifts. They will see my intelligence. They will see that I'm worthy. They will see. And I kept trying to prove to everybody else, which in turn, I really was trying to prove to myself. But the mind is very, very tricky at times.
Yeah.
And prior to my son's transition, it was about proving to everyone else. So as I get to another layer, get to another layer, get to another layer, and it was never enough. I had to go higher. I had to do more. I had to be more successful. And since his transition and since my healing journey really truly began, I've started to really follow my life purpose, follow my intuition and not my head. You know, like clearly things come through my head, but if it doesn't feel right to my heart, if it's not feeling right, if I have a twinge in my body, or if I have this energy that's just off about something, I step back and I get in tune with my body and I ask for direction from a higher power. Then I listen and act on that. And so the 3 books I wrote in 2020, which all became a #1 international bestseller, all of those books were led by a divine drive, not by me driving. So I get to sit in the driver's seat and I hear the word turn left, turn right, you know, which I'm using that as an analogy. Turn left, turn right, go straight, go to the top of the hill, you know, like whatever it is, I hear those words and I follow that. So my life is smoother. Now, it's not perfect by any means. No one's life is perfect. And I don't always listen to my intuition. And then I always think, now had I only listened to that, I probably would be in a different situation. But what can I learn? What can I bring from this as a teaching? So where I can continue to grow and heal and live the highest, best life that I can live while I'm here.
Right. One of the things that I always say, the women in power are incredible because we have this intuition. And if you connect to that intuition, and it's not only women, men and women both, we have access to that intuition. We just,
Exactly.
as females, I don't know, somehow we're more open to it because society and culture and teachings have inhibit, our male counterparts for that. But intuition is a great guidance. And what do you do? Do you have a regular routine during your day that you make sure to connect every day and strengthen
Absolutely.
that?
I do. I want to just come back to that, but I'd want to just address the cultural and societal expectations of male versus female, or the masculine versus feminine.
Yep.
It's not just this culture, like what is programmed in our body, we're carrying from other lifetimes and from our generational experiences. So how we react to life in this lifetime is how we're programmed from 0 to 8 years old. So the experiences that we had between 0 and 8 years old usually drives us to the choices that we make the rest of our lives until we don't, until we become more aware and make some changes. So what has been programmed into our body from 0 to 1 year old is our ancestors' traumas. And there's science behind this that shows that we carry 2 generations back from our ancestors, our generational trauma. So not only are we responding to our own trauma, we're also responding to our generational trauma. I'll give you an example. I lost my only son. My mom lost her only son when she was pregnant for me, and my grandmother had her only son taken away at birth. So all three had sudden losses of their children, and that was a generational loss. And so I went through a healing process that healed that. And so now that generational loss is broken. So I just wanted to say that we all carry these programs that we don't even realize we're programmed, and we're reacting to in life, we're not responding to. And so to get back to the question that you asked, Viviana, is I have a very sacred space in the morning, very sacred time. That mornings I spend about 2 hours total. That is my time. And I get up at 4:30 in the morning to make sure that I get to do that, because it's my space, my time. And I also have a ritual now in the evenings. But in the mornings, I definitely meditate. I write affirmations and gratitude. I actually do acknowledgments of myself now. I have visualizations and goals that I've set out, and so I have a very structured morning practice. One of which is so embedded. It is my gratitude list. I write 10 things every day that I'm grateful for, and as soon as I open up my eyes, I connect to the higher power and I say good morning to my son. Like, good morning, I love you, and I connect to the higher power. Create this little, and then I do my gratitude. And I also exercise. So I bring in some type of exercise. I go to the gym often, and other times I just stretch, but I move my body. And then I educate myself. Then I pull the mind in and do, motivational speeches on YouTube, or have a book on tape so I can listen to it while I'm getting ready for work. And I also have an accountability partner. So I speak to my accountability partner 5 days a week. We talk in the morning for anywhere between 10 and 20 minutes. It just depends on what the morning's like. And I belong to mastermind groups. So I have a pretty dedicated practice. And then in the evenings now, I do a meditation, a prayer, and I've incorporated what's called hape. And it's an indigenous tobacco type of practice. I'm going to say practice. And it goes up into your nostrils. And what it does is open up your third eye. And so where you can be more connected to the energy that's there. And it also decalcifies your pineal gland, which is your pineal gland is what connects you. And that's where a lot of calcification happens when there's trauma, when there's challenge and stress, and that helps decalcify that as well. So to stay connected. Oh, and in the mornings, I also draw oracle cards for guidance.
All righty. So you are very structured. And I think that's, one of the issues that entrepreneurs have is lack of time. But what I discovered, because I went through the same situation of trying to incorporate things and finding that, oh no, I don't have the time. But when you actually start taking your time to connect, right, and to your practice, somehow time stretches, right? It happens.
Well, for me, I feel like it drives what's important to me throughout the day. So I create my daily intention as well as I write my global intention, my big, hairy, audacious goal, but it creates the focus on what's important to continue to move forward with what my life purpose is, instead of being distracted by all the little things.
Yes. And speaking of life purpose, talk to us about your books.
So the first book I wrote was Women Who Rise. I wrote in that. There's 30 authors. It's a collaborative book. And Women Who Rise, my story in that is the experience of finding out about my son and how devastating it was, and then how I got up on my feet and heard that message. And so it's a more detailed story of the experience and how that catapulted me forward. Shattered Together, A Mother's Journey from Grief to Belief is the second book that I wrote. And it wasn't just me writing it. It was a collaboration between my guides, my son, me, and a lot of it's channeled, including the cover of the book. And that is a little bit of a memoir, a little how-to, and a little inspiration. And so at the end of each chapter, there is a practice that people can implement as they move through their healing journey. My story is the story of the suicide and other healing modalities that I've used. And it's written from a healing perspective, a healed perspective versus the pain of the story. So it's really written for inspiration and hope for people who have experienced a loss in their life. And the third that just came out at the end of December is Women Who Empower. And Women Who Empower story is about what I've done since I released the old patterns and have created new patterns in my life and how I do that. So it gives you the how to connect to your intuition, how you can start to listen to it a little more. So there's a few how-tos in that. And Women Who Empower is a collaborative book as well.
Wow. Well, where can we go to get these books?
So there you can go to my website at CathleenElle.com and you can order an autographed copy, or you can just order from Amazon. Of course, you can go directly to Amazon and look up my name as Cathleen Elle with a C. And it's CathleenElle.com is my website. So you can get my books, and there are some programs that are starting. There's a program called From Grief to Belief starting February 1st. It is for people who are in the midst of their sudden loss right now, or in their loss, that has lost a loved one. And so it's 8 weeks of virtual, in-person support, healing modalities, and how do you connect with your loved one on the other side.
And before we go, I want to share something with you that you probably will understand, and maybe someone out there has gone through my experience. But I went through, painful losses of my grandparents who raised me up, my parents. And I remember at the beginning of the first 6 months when my grandmother passed, I could feel her every day. And then it kind of faded away. And it's a pain that I've carried because I want to feel her presence the way I was feeling her presence 6 months, right after her death, which I don't know if anyone has gone through that experience. That was mine. Is that something that you've heard before?
Yes, definitely. I've heard it before. And I also know that sometimes there's signs that you're not seeing because you were so used to having the feeling of her there that she may have shifted how she presents herself, and you weren't able to see that there might be some presence there in a different way. Right. And so so I like to talk about energy in the sense that our loved one's body, our physical presence is no longer here, but their energy, their presence, their gregariousness, whatever it is about their personality is still all around us. And so I like to think of it as like a electric line, like a line of electricity. It doesn't just have electricity on point A and point B. There's electricity that goes all the way through, and it feeds millions of people in between. That's the same way that our soul is. Like, we are energy, we're all connected. And when we're out of our body, our soul becomes free and it's able to spread throughout and touch many people. Right. And so the presence of our loved ones are always here. It's how do we tune into that, which I share with my clients.
All right. Well, we're going to have to read more and research more about you.
Yeah.
Yes. Thanks so much, Kathleen. It has been great having you, and definitely we'll probably contact you to come back because I'm sure there's so many other things that we can learn from you.
Thank you so much, Viviana. It's been beautiful to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thanks.